I want to discuss with you some 14 ways to deal depression. I want to be real and practical by suggesting the first way is to go to the doctor. So if you're on medication, I repeat again, continue with your medication. What you need to understand, antidepressants are like painkillers, and it's okay to take painkillers as you look for the real treatment. It's okay to minimize your pain. There is no shame in taking antidepressants. That said, please understand, you will never permanently recover from depression by taking antidepressants. I've given a lot of thought to this subject. I've reluctantly implemented what I'm doing tonight. I've been requested by people over the years to do this topic. I've given deep thought about what I'm saying, and I'm aware about the controversies this may raise. So let me repeat for the avoidance of doubt, in case you thought this was a slip of the tongue. You will never permanently recover from depression by taking antidepressants. Come to terms with that. You never got depressed by taking pills. You'll never get out of depression by taking pills. It's just like obesity and weight. You never got weight by taking pills. You will never recover from obesity and overweight permanently by taking pills. Number 2, psychotherapy. And that's why primarily I asked Beatrice Maggie to be with me here tonight, because there's a treatment they give people we call CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. They study your behaviors and your habits and try to see whether there is some disorderly thinking that will be causing unnecessary anxiety. I received a lot of emails from different Kenyans who wants to help me in this, and I know most of them are genuine. But the reason I want to work with Beatrice is because I know her. I'm not a psychiatrist. And sometimes you need someone to help you go through this process. Number 3, 4, 5, and 6, look at me for a while. Stop looking at the screen. I want to tell you this. There's a solution within you which I want to propose, which is hormonal. And I want to tell you some 4 hormones, which I call today some feel-good hormones. The first feel-good hormone that you have is called endorphin. Endorphin is activated in your blood system when you exercise, or you do some stretches, or you just laugh. You just watch just for laughs. I'm not talking of movies. Just for laughs. If you get a chance to laugh hysterically, that is music to your soul. You either create time for exercise and laughter or create time for antidepressants. If you have no way to laugh, ask someone to tickle you. Go to Alliance Française. But look for an opportunity just to laugh. If you have no opportunity, be joining me to be showing you just for laugh some of the best. They will get you to laughter. The second hormone that can deal with depression is called dopamine. Dopamine. Now, dopamine is released in your blood system when you're appreciated. Now, you have to do something for you to be appreciated. For example, if you're in sales, make sure you become the national sales leading person in the year. As they recognize you, as they put you in the newspapers. The other day, I was going to speak to university students in Kenya, and I saw my billboard. I think they have not removed it yet on Mombasa Road. Allow me to confess one of my little secrets. I felt very good. Can I just be honest? You feel like, I think I'm making a statement. Do you ever feel such a thing? You also feel when you go through graduation or through a wedding. But if you do not have some of these major milestones, I want to give you a very simple way of being appreciated. Just dress sharp. Take care of your nails and your hair. Come on. Look good. You'll force everyone to tell you, you are looking good. And it releases dopamine. Wacha kukaa kiherehere. You know, the funny thing with people who are depressed, they wear dull colors. If you realize you're stressed, I advise you today, look for extremely bright colors 3 times a week. Do a hairstyle you have never done before. For someone just to say, you look different. Today I found my massive very different. When she came to Lillian Towers, I didn't know this was my wife. To be honest, you know, they go to the salon and they change. 15 years, 9 months, I was getting shocked. Because she looked different. She's ever smart, but today she looked very different. And she wanted me not to tell her to start. My God. For the purposes of later. Hormone number 3. Can we go to number 3? And it is called serotonin. Serotonin. So why should I give you such hard terms? Because you guys are wronged. I know you people. Serotonin. You release serotonin when you do something to people who can never repay you. When you visit, did you know a lot of prisoners are there innocently? When you visit the prisoner, you visit the elderly, orphans, street children. Don't confuse what I have just said with CSR. Corporate social responsibilities have a string attached. It is about your personal and corporate branding. I'm saying planting a tree whose shade may never shelter you. Doing something to people who may never recognize you. Number 4, and the last hormone, oxytocin. Now, you release oxytocin. One, for those who are married. When you make love intimately, you release oxytocin. For the singles in our midst, when you hug someone intimately, you release oxytocin. Even when you hug your own child. I would have wanted to demonstrate, but the best person to demonstrate how to hug is Dennis. So Dennis, come over here. The reason I want to show you how not to hug and how to hug. Now, Dennis, come here. Stand here. I have a friend of mine, a friend we share with Erastus, and this is how he hugs people. You have not met for 5 years. Oh, Dennis. Hi, Dennis. That's how he hugs people. If you hug like that, you cannot release oxytocin. So show us how to hug. Show us how to hug. I'm serious, by the way.
I can go ahead?
Yes. Show us how to hug. Exactly. I mean exactly that. And by the way, before you sit, you too. There are some people who are so sensitive. Just let me hold my Ivy. Just holding her heart like this, and a small peck like this. Oxytocin is released the whole body. The whole body. It is called touch therapy. Look at the neighbor on your right and on your left and tell them, touch me, baby, touch me, baby. You can sit, you can sit. I hug my daughter no less than 20 times every day. Every single day. And let me tell you this, there are parents who never ever get a chance to touch their children, and you're denying them something. And the moment you build that, over the years, that child becomes secure. When you go home and your husband never touches you, go tell him tonight, touch me, baby. Touch me, baby. Let's go to number 7. Associate with positive people. Associate with positive people. That means avoid people who consistently stress you. It is true there are some people who stress you. You don't have to always be on their path. Avoid people who are vampires sucking blood out of your life. And associate with people who build your faith up. People who build up. You know, emotions are contagious. Look for people with positive energy. Number 8, think positively. Be careful with your thoughts. Do not expose yourself to negative material. The same way you don't watch pornography, because you know it's going to corrupt your morals. Stop watching violent movies and baptizing them action movies. You are eventually a product of what you expose yourself to. If you consistently watch episodes of depressed people, you'll eventually be depressed. Beatrice will tell you this. In psychotherapy, they are also careful not to always associate day in, day out with depressed people, because eventually you end up becoming depressed. There is a character who went to the library and looked at the librarian and said, "Sir, do you have a book on how to commit suicide?" The librarian told him, "Get out of here, you won't bring it back." Let me tell you what you should be thinking about. Look at this. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is, whatever is, whatever is, whatever is, whatever is, whatever is, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. How amazing that God would even prescribe our thought system, because we are a product of what we keep thinking. Yes, you can't keep reading books on suicide and return the book to the library. That's true. Number 9, speak positively. Now, listen to this very carefully. I think I want to release some revelation right here. Because there's not a single word you speak that is neutral, who has the power to make and the power to destroy. Here is the deal. Every positive word you speak activates the ejeric ram into action. Every positive word you speak commissions heaven into action. Every negative word you speak activates the dark, demonic world into action. That's why when somebody says, I will commit suicide, there's a demon assigned to do a thorough follow-up on that assignment. Is this biblical? Let me try to prove to you. Now, an army general came to Christ, just to give you one of them. I could have given you many examples. Follow me if you can. My servant is unwell. I believe he was talking about one of the soldiers. Now, Jesus knew something basic. Give honor to those whom honor is due. And he said, I will come to your house tonight. The army general said, you don't need to do that. I'm the chief of general staff. When I give an order, bullets are fired in the battleground. Once I release a word, things happen at the battlefront. Jesus, I know who you are. Just say the word. Just say the word. And sickness will leave. And demons will flee. You don't need to travel to my house. Just say the word. The Bible says life and death is in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruits thereof. Life and death. Every word you speak is either life or death. No wonder Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So watch this. Is it possible to feel stressed and disturbed in your head? Yes, and it is still not sinful. You see, Jesus said, whosoever shall say to this mountain, be removed from here and planted over there, and does not doubt in his heart. Jesus never said, does not doubt in his mind. You are human, and you're likely to doubt in your head. But when you speak it, you transfer it from your head to your heart. Before you speak it, it's still in your head. Once you verbalize your fears and your anxieties, you have now transferred from your head to your heart. The devil doesn't know your thoughts. He gets cues when you speak. He's not omniscient. There are three prerogatives of our God. He's the omnipotent God. He's the all-knowing God, omniscient God. He's the omnipresent God, ever present. The devil, you give him too much credit. He can't read your mind. He gets clues when you speak. And when it's a negative word you speak, you know what? You are God. Psalms 82 verse 6. Every word you speak has another dimension in higher worlds. You are either asking heaven to back your statement or hell to back your statement. Never utter a negative word with your mouth. Train your tongue. It's not going to come easy. Learning a new language does not happen overnight, but learn to speak positively. If God does not lie, and this is his language, let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich. Let the weak say I'm strong. Let the sick say I'm healed. God calls things that are not as though they are. If God can tell a weak person to say I'm strong and God does not lie, why wouldn't you speak God's language when you're broke and say, I am getting a financial breakthrough? That's God's language. Speak positively. Do not ever admit you're depressed by confessing it. If you go to a psychotherapy or a doctor or wherever you go, explain your signs, but don't confess the word depressed. This is the line between my job as a minister of the gospel with a doctor. Because the eternal truth will set you free. Embrace quiet times. Learn to meditate. And this is not social withdrawal. By quiet times, I exactly mean that. Giving your mind a chance to rest. You're not on overdrive. Many times you're on autopilot. And there are many ways in which you can have quiet moments to connect with your inner self, because the quieter you are, the louder you hear. But the best way you can do it is a walk in the park. Nature has a way of reducing cortisol. What's that? Cortisol is a stress hormone. Stress hormone, we call it cortisol. And the mere fact that you take a walk in the park has a way of reducing cortisol in your blood system. Number 11, journal your feelings. I'm saying this because sometimes we are too weak to share with someone else what we are going through. If you don't feel like you can trust the world and the society and the people around you, I suggest tonight, get onto your laptop. Write everything you feel, your entire experience, write it down. By doing so, unconsciously, you begin to vent. It's as though you're speaking to someone else. Journal your feelings to give you a chance to vent. Number 12, live responsibly. While it is true, we are not necessarily the people who cause depression. Some of the issues that come to us are self-induced. For example, if you don't take care of your targets at work, you are definitely asking your supervisor to take disciplinary measures. And stress is the next item on the ladder. Take care of your job. Take care of your business. Avoid being a busybody. Matters your relationship. Let me throw a word to the married and a word to the singles. For those who are married, realize this. Every time you get involved in multiple relationships, you are setting yourself up for depression. Every mpago or kado will also want a house and a car and a child. It doesn't matter whether you can afford those things or not. Even if you have the money to afford, while you're still in your house, you'll be wondering, ni dume gani iko kwangu kule ninalipa apartment. It's just a fact of life. Every extramarital affairs is a doorway to depression. For the singles, and let me start with the girls, and then I can talk to the men. If you're a single lady listening to me here today, one of the greatest dilemmas, at what point do I realize a man is serious for marriage or he just wants sex to take me to bed? At what point do I realize that? Because all men, all normal men, whether he's looking for sex or for marriage, they say the same things. The only way to get married to you or to take you to bed is to make you believe you have the fairest skin on the face of the earth. You have the best brains or the most focused girl. It is to make you believe your shape is like that of Eve, directly baked by the hands of God. His fingers, he did not pass through your parents. When I look at your eyes, I just melt in your presence, you know. Every man here knows the truth. That's the only way a whole engineer won the girl he married, including pastors. So as a single lady, how do you know whether this guy is serious or he's misusing you? This is a simple litmus test. I will repeat it. I will drill it into your mind. If you believe it, you are saved. If you don't, you'll pay the price for depression. Do not get engaged in premarital sex until you get married. If a man is dead serious with you, he will wait for you. Simple. Otherwise, you expose yourself to the same vicious cycle. You will be hurt again. This is the truth. Men know the difference between call girls and wife material. And the moment he realizes you cannot encourage sex that is outside covenant, then they take you to be serious because you respect yourself. Ironically, most women sleep with men because they want to hook them. They don't want to lose them. It's such an irony because that's the time you lose them. Especially when you feel years are passing by. You're about to turn 40. You feel the clock is ticking and no one is coming through your way. That's the time you make blunders and you're stressed by your relationships all the more. For the men in our midst, I have a word for you. If you're going to win that girl by flashing a car, showing her property, you're going to sustain her through the same things. It is time you learn, do not relate with things that you can lose. You can lose your money, you can lose your job, you can lose your business, you can lose your house, you can even lose your spouse. Don't derive your identity from that which you can lose. As a man, if you sleep with that woman, even if you get married, realize you have already mentored her into uncovenanted sex. And they will still move out and you are the mentor. You show them it was all right to get involved into casual sex. You made it clear to them by what you did. It is in your interest. Why does this simple logic escape us? Why are we such victims of the enemy? Before we are married, Satan tempts us into premarital sex. Once we get married, he tempts us outside sex. Who has bewitched us as humanity? Don't you realize I speak with authority here because I've chosen to live with each one of you purely. If I compromise with any of you, I'll never speak the way I speak here again. Don't you realize you're stressing yourself? The moment you just mix up yourself with the relationship, if you're going to marry this woman for life, and you're planning to be with her for the next 50, 60 years, why are you rushing the next 6 months when you're dating? Where is common sense at this time and age? If you thought this is about eternity, this is about you here. You will still go to heaven after committing murder and adultery. The grace of God cannot be exhausted so long as you confess. There's only one sin God doesn't forgive, the unconfessed sin. There's only one prayer God doesn't answer, the unprayed prayer. But you'll pay the price right here. You get to the club, your teeth are knocked, you come to Christ, we will embrace you and hug you, and you will remain toothless. Let's go to number 13. Invest in personal development. You see, personal development is not for losers, it's for winners. The cup of knowledge for wise people never fail. I'm saying this because there are a lot of people who think personal development should be for people who are not doing well in their career lives. Personal development is for people who are winners. Now, let me share one or two thoughts why you need personal development. For instance, you learn when you come here, and I've said it a million times, you're either in trouble or headed for trouble, or you have just emerged out of trouble. Job says, few are the days of a man born of a woman, and they're full of trouble. This is just the reality. And I can't describe it any better than John Milton, who wrote in Paradise Lost about our broken world. Ours is a broken world, broken relationships, dysfunctional families, broken marriages, broken economies, broken climate. That's why Jesus in the Lord's Prayer taught us, thy will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. For lack of a better word, heaven is a planet, because I couldn't get a better analogy, just like the earth. How do I know? Jesus said, in my Father's house are many mansions. You don't build mansions in the air. But the Lord said very clearly, God's will is perfectly executed in heaven. And that's the prayer he has told you to pray, that that same will may be done here. Because here, anything but God's will takes place. I want to suggest to you today, no matter the victories you're going through, life will never give you a 100% victory. You still have issues to deal with, even on your graduation day, even on your wedding day. And no matter the trouble you're going through, you still have something to thank God for. It is never a 100% misery. Count your blessings one by one. Begin to name them. I like naming them, calling them by their names. You see, personal development helps you to go through life victoriously. Often than not, God doesn't change our situations. He changes us. He changes our mind. I don't know whether there's a better example than that of Dr. Viktor Frankl. Definitely you've heard me quote this in years past. And maybe you don't know why. Maybe I should give you the context. In the Holocaust, he witnessed his own father, mother, brother, and pregnant wife killed by the armies of Adolf Hitler. There are a couple of people who managed to escape the Nazi camps, and he was one of them. And graciously, he was able to live all the way to 92 years of age. He wrote several books, one of which, the most popular, sold over 10 million copies, Man's Search for Meaning. I think the best quote I could give you tonight from that book, anything can be taken away from a man except the last of human freedom. Your right to choose your attitude in any set of circumstances. Now, if you can make such a statement after witnessing your entire family perish before your very eyes brutally, then this is a man who was deliberate with personal growth and development. What does this do to us? For instance, if you've been coming to our classes, you know we keep insisting don't compete with others. How strange it is that the 10th commandment, thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet somebody's car. Thou shalt not covet somebody's wife, somebody's husband. Thou shalt not covet somebody's smartphone. You know, a lot of our stresses are self-induced. Men in particular are very competitive by nature. And I encourage you to compete against your previous self, not against others. God never designed us to move at the same pace. He never designed us to speak the same way. He never designed us to pursue the same career. But if you can continuously outdo yourself, then we are talking. Competing with others will leave you frustrated and stressed. Personal development will teach you to be content. I'm not talking about lack of ambition here, but avoiding coveting. You learn to be content. It's not a natural trait. Paul says, I have learned to be content in all things. He adds, contentment with godliness is a great gain. I live with number 14, and perhaps for me, the most important way of dealing depression. Number 14, the last one, pray. You see, Jesus prayed for us. How more should we pray for ourselves? And he was clear in his prayers. Can you imagine the Lord had the audacity to say, in this world, you will have many troubles. In some versions, you will have many tribulations. But I've prayed for you. But I've not prayed for you to be removed from the world, but that you may overcome the world. I suggest tonight, there is a peace that transcends our circumstances. There is a peace that transcends human understanding. Explain to me, precious friends, brothers and sisters, visitors present, how could the Apostle Paul sleep soundly when he was headed for the hangman noose the following morning? Even if you are not to be killed, how can you sleep comfortably, even if you are to go through, quote unquote, no more death the following morning? How do you afford to sleep so tight that an angel has to hit you at the side to wake you up? I think there is a peace that transcends all human understanding. If God can give peace to someone scheduled for the hangman noose, God can give peace to someone with big bank loans, broken relationships, broken family, bereaved person listening to me here who has lost a whole family. If God can give Peter peace. But I know this, there are times you're not too strong to pray for yourself. That particular night, the church was praying for Peter. The Apostle Paul writes to the Philippians from the jail, rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say, rejoice. I think there is a peace that transcends understanding. How do you write such words from prison? And then he sent another letter to the Corinthians and said, we are crushed on every side, but not destroyed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. I think there is a peace that transcends understanding. The Ten Boom family was a Dutch Christian family that was saving a lot of Jews from the Holocaust, and they used to hide them in their house. Until one night, an informant tipped the Nazis, and they captured the entire family. Corrie found herself with her sister in a Nazi concentration camp. The entire family perished. Miraculously, details for another day, she was able to escape the Nazi camps. And she lived up to her 91st birthday. In fact, according to Jewish custom, to celebrate your birthday and your death day the same day is an indication of a very special individual, and that happened to Corrie. She wrote several books. I want to pull one quote from her book, The Hiding Place, that ministers to my heart very deeply. She wrote, and I quote, after looking at the family lost in Holocaust, in that context, this is what she says. If you look to the world, you will be distressed. If you look within, you will be depressed. If you look up to Christ, you will be at rest. Elsewhere, she writes, you will never know that Christ is all you need until Christ is all that you have. Life is made of seasons. And I have a mango tree here, just to illustrate that. There are no times you go through bright days alone. But I'm here to let you know, the darker the night, the brighter the stars. Sometimes the darker the night, the clearer we hear the Lord, and the clearer we see the Lord. Sometimes the Lord allows us to go through misty seasons to arrest our attention. Because he has drawn warning signs we can't see. Then he has to bring some stop signs to arrest our attention from this busy life. By the way, you may not believe what I'm going to tell you. I don't believe the idea of 24 economy is God's idea. That's personal. It looks like a civilized way of running a 24-hour economy. It's happened in many countries in the world. But I believe that the Lord created the night for our rest. I believe we have been occupied to lose touch with our eternal values. Again, that's my personal opinion. But here's my message. Sometimes the darker the night, the clearer we see the Lord. I'm going to close by giving you the words, the last words of someone. And I think the last word of someone is very serious. I don't know whether there's anyone in our midst. Don't lift up your hand. Who listened to the last words of the father or the mother when they were leaving you. The last words of someone are very serious words. And tonight I want to draw your attention to the last words of Jesus before he physically left us. He said, and I quote, I will never leave you, nor forsake you to the end of the world. For long I used to think this was a repetitive term in grammatical language for emphasis, until I crisscrossed with the original translation, and I realized this was not repetition. Though that phrase, I'll never leave you, nor forsake you, in the original translation means, I will never leave you, nor emotionally abandon you. Think of Jesus saying, I will never leave you, nor abandon you emotionally. At Gethsemane, he was sweating blood for your emotional healing. He carried your stress and your depression, nullified them on that old rugged cross so that you may walk with a sound mind.